Fifth Hour Radio Show.
Dr. Bonner, first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out to be our guest on the show today. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's go all the way back to your college years. What made you decide to choose anthropology as your field of study?
I don't know. I graduated from high school in O'Fallon, Missouri, went to Mizzou, and took my first course in anthropology. Just loved it. It was just one of those things that they make you take a lot of different courses. I took that one and actually opened up the textbook and saw where the author of the textbook taught, and it was Columbia University in New York, and I said, that's where I'm going. So that's how it started.
So where did you work before making the move to St. Louis Zoo? I mean, were you already in the St. Louis area, or did you have to relocate?
Well, I was a professor for a couple of years and decided I really liked working in natural history museums because I'd worked in a natural history museum when I was in graduate school in New York. The American Museum of Natural History is a great museum. So I came back here and went to work at the Museum of Science and Natural History in Oak Knoll Park. I don't know if people remember that, but that was the forerunner of the St. Louis Science Center. So my job 32 years ago, I was hired to build the St. Louis Science Center, and that's what we did. We had a great time, and after 10 years, when it was open, I got recruited to leave St. Louis. I went to Indianapolis to be the president of their zoo, and then got recruited back here 12 years ago. So I've been in zoos for 22 years.
So let's talk about your position as president and CEO of St. Louis Zoo. What does a president and CEO of a zoo do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it's a pretty varied job because the zoo is like a small city. I mean, there's so many things going on, and there's a lot of moving pieces. I spend a lot of time in planning and sort of looking out to the future. We've acquired property across the way. We're in the midst of doing another 5-year plan. There's a fair amount of fundraising. You're representing the zoo nationally and internationally. I just got back from India at the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So, a lot of different things. It's a lot of diversity. We have really, I think, a very good division of labor here and some very talented vice presidents and a senior staff. So they take a lot of the day-to-day stuff off my shoulders.
It has to be pretty expensive to feed all the animals in the zoo. And last time I checked, the admission was free. Does the St. Louis Zoo depend a lot on donations from the community and visitors, or how does that work?
Well, it's interesting. We pull in, let's say, about $60 million a year in revenue, and it falls out almost perfectly in thirds. So there's a third property tax support, a third earned income, and that could be the parking lots or face painting or food service or what have you, rides. And then there's philanthropy, and that's the last third of it. And so we get about $20 million a year thanks to the generosity of folks that live in and around here, around the nation, and around the world.
Now, do you know exactly how many species of animals you have at the zoo? Do you have your own personal favorites?
I forget how many species we have. I think it's over 650, I think, just
Wow.
A little over 650, and about 18,000 critters. But remember, we count the insects, and we actually do count them. We have breeding records on it and who's bred with who, and they're managed genetically in a very precise way. But do I have a favorite? Not at the zoo, because that's politically incorrect. Mm-hmm. But I love mooses and I love ducks. If that counts for anything.
Now, I'm curious, do you have your own personal pets at home? I can just imagine a president and CEO of a zoo having like zebras and giraffes in the backyard, maybe a lion for personal protection. I know that sounds funny, but, do you have your own personal pets?
Yeah, you'd be so disappointed. We have an ancient English bulldog, and she actually, her warranty expired a little while ago,
Oh, okay.
so She's still with us, but she sleeps about 22 hours a day, and the other 2 hours she rests.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that you would consider that to be the liveliest pet, but that's it. That's the whole pet inventory right there.
Now, you spoke about this a few seconds ago. How often do you have new additions to the zoo, such as births? Is that strictly controlled, or do you do your best to promote that, especially with endangered species?
Well, that's such a good question. All of these animals are in species survival plans, or most of them, and a species survival plan is essentially a great big, giant national computerized dating service for animals. And so we have breeding recommendations that come, and we're looking at things from a genetic point of view, trying to maintain a huge amount of the genetic diversity over a 100-year period, and looking out into the future. And then the computer makes the recommendations, and we try to get the animals to follow them. But we don't we don't allow any births unless there's a place for the animal, for the offspring to go. So, we're constantly balancing that need for reproduction and genetic diversity with the fact that there's not much room left in the ark. And that's a difficult part of this job.
Now, is the zoo open year-round, even during the wintertime months?
We're closed on New Year's Day and Christmas Day, but otherwise we're open year-round. And, of course, we have to feed the animals anyway, so and care for everything. So, things slow down in the winter, but we do have wild lights in the evenings, and that's our holiday display, and it's phenomenal. So I hope your listeners have a chance to come out and take advantage of that.
So before we start to wrap up the show, tell us a little bit about your book. I know you have a book called Sailing with Noah, Stories from the World of Zoos. For those that haven't read it, what's that about, and where can they purchase it?
Well, I think you can still get it online, or of course it's always available as an ebook from the University of Missouri Press. It was great fun writing it. It's sort of like an introduction to the world of zoos. A lot of the stories taken from places where I've worked, but a lot of the stories taken from other zoos around the nation and around the world. And I think they're good stories. They help people to understand why we do what we do, and why it's difficult, but why it's incredibly rewarding and fulfilling, and why zoos are so important to conservation worldwide. People have, I think, kind of outdated ideas about zoos and about how we care for animals. So that was kind of fun to write a book that really shed a lot of light on what really goes on in a zoo.
Is there any big news or upcoming attractions for the St. Louis Zoo, or anything you would like to add that maybe I haven't covered?
Well, yeah, the polar bears are opening early next summer, and that'll be exciting. Underwater viewing of polar bears, we're excited about that. And we have, like I said, we have a lot of fun holiday stuff with U.S. Bank Wildlights. You can adopt an animal for Christmas or for the holidays. If you've got listeners that are interested in that, that's a great gift idea, and membership's always a good idea too. So a lot of things that folks can do, and it's a great time of year to visit the zoo. It's not very crowded this time of year, and that makes it kind of a special thing.
Yeah. So where can people go as far as website, social media, to get more information about the zoo?
Yeah, there's really one place, and our website is stlzoo.org, stlzoo.org. And really, they can get information on anything they want. It's a rich and wonderful website. They can also join us on Facebook. I think we have about 300,000 plus, I think 370,000 Facebook fans. So that's a great way to stay up with what's going on in the zoo. But the website is the first place to visit.
Well, Dr. Bonner, I want to thank you once again for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to someday meet you. We always visit the zoo, I know, at least once a year. So hopefully when I show up, maybe I can run into you and shake your hand.
Yeah, stop by anytime. I'm always here.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.